Did you know that in a small village in Japan called Okinawa, there are more people over the age of 100 than almost anywhere else in the world? And they're not just surviving, they're thriving. They walk every day, tend to their gardens, laugh with friends, eat simple food, and most importantly, they wake up each morning with a reason to live. This secret, this quiet force behind their long, joyful lives, is something the Japanese call Ikigai. And today in this audiobook we're going to explore what Ikigai really means, not just as a word but as a way of life. So if you've ever felt lost, if you've ever wondered, what am I really meant to do? Or, why does life feel heavy even when everything seems fine on the outside? This story is for you. Take a deep breath. Welcome to a journey that has changed millions of lives, not with loud motivation but with quiet clarity. Let's discover your Ikigai, the reason you get up in the morning, the thread that connects your heart, your passion, and your purpose. This beautiful journey into Ikigai was brought to the world by two curious minds, Héctor García and Francesc Miralles. Both of them were fascinated by a single question. Why do some people live not just longer, but better? So they traveled to Okinawa, the southernmost island of Japan, where people live the longest, happiest lives on Earth. They didn't just take notes, they listened to stories, shared meals with centenarians, observed their daily habits, their mindset, their relationships. And slowly the invisible thread that held their joyful lives together began to reveal itself. That invisible thread was Ikigai. And from that discovery came this book. Ikigai, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life. But this is not just a book filled with ideas. It's a quiet guide, a mirror, a soft whisper in a noisy world that reminds you, you don't need to chase happiness. You already have it, you've just forgotten where to look. If you stay with this story till the end, you won't just learn the secrets of long life. You'll feel calmer. You'll start seeing beauty in small things. You'll begin asking better questions about how you spend your time, your energy, your attention. And most importantly, you'll take the first step toward discovering your own Ikigai. So let's begin, not with instructions but with intention. Let's walk into the quiet village lanes of Okinawa, where life moves slowly, gently, and purposefully. There's a quiet magic in the way the sun rises over the village of Okinawa, Japan. The morning is slow, gentle, soft. Old men walk with steady steps to their gardens. Grandmothers sweep their doorsteps with care. Chickens cluck nearby, and the smell of miso soup drifts through open windows. Everything is simple, but nothing feels ordinary. Because everyone here, no matter their age, wakes up with a reason to live. They call it Ikigai. It's not a complicated word. In fact, it's made of two simple parts. Iki meaning life and gai meaning value or worth. Together, they form the idea of a reason for being. The thing, or things, that make your life feel worth living. Your reason to wake up in the morning with purpose, even joy. And the most beautiful thing? You don't need to be rich to have it. You don't need to be young. You don't need to be special in anyone else's eyes. You just need to feel alive, in your own skin, your own rhythm, your own quiet way. This is the world that Héctor García and Francesc Miralles walked into when they traveled to Okinawa. They had heard stories of people living past 100 with radiant health and unshakable peace. Not locked in hospitals or retirement homes, but out in the sun, laughing, moving, living. They wanted to understand why. And so, they listened. They sat with elders in their kitchens and gardens. They watched how they cooked, how they greeted their neighbors, how they moved without rush. They asked questions not as researchers but as fellow human beings who wanted to know, how do you live so well? And the answers they heard were simple, almost humble. I wake up because I like to see the sunrise. I take care of the flowers outside my home. I cook lunch for my grandchildren. I have tea with my friend every afternoon. I still weave baskets. I've done it for 70 years. I move. I talk. I help. I live. Not once did anyone mention wealth. Not once did anyone speak about retirement plans or productivity hacks. No one said they were chasing happiness. They were simply living in alignment with who they were, and that gave them all the happiness they needed. But the modern world has forgotten how to live like this. We are so used to rushing, achieving, pushing. Our days are packed with screens and schedules. We move fast, we think faster, but we rarely feel still. And even when we reach what we were chasing, the job, the car, the house, the applause, something inside still feels empty. We wonder why. But maybe the answer isn't out there. Maybe it's in the quiet places we stop visiting. Maybe it's in the small joys we stop noticing. Maybe it's in the Ikigai we left behind. Here's the truth. Ikigai is already inside you. It's not something you go out and find like buried treasure. It's something you remember. And you begin remembering by paying attention to what lights you up, even for a moment. Think about it. When was the last time you lost track of time while doing something? Not because it was urgent, but because it felt right. Maybe you were painting, or cooking, or dancing, or building, or writing. Maybe you were fixing something with your hands. Maybe you were helping someone through their pain. Maybe you were sitting with your child or your parents sharing a story you've told 100 times, and yet it still made you smile. That feeling, that quiet inner spark, that's your Ikigai speaking. In Ajimai, even at the age of 90 or 100, people stay connected to this spark. They don't stop doing what they love just because they're old. They don't retire from life. Instead, they adapt. They simplify. But they keep moving toward meaning. They still knit, still garden, still play, still sing. Not for achievement. Not for money. But for the sheer joy of it. That's the key. Ikigai is not about success. It's about significance. It's not about being the best. It's about being true to yourself, to what you care about, to what matters. And that's why these people live so long, not because they are obsessed with health, but because they are in love with life. They follow simple but powerful patterns. They eat only until they're 80% full. They drink herbal teas. They eat slowly. They move often, not through exercise classes but through daily life. They walk. They sweep. They dance. They sleep early. They wake early. They spend time with friends and family. They sit in the sun. They grow their own food. They give more than they take. But above all, they never stop having something to look forward to. Even something as small as watering a plant or preparing a meal for someone you love can be your Ikigai, if you do it with presence. The problem in the modern world isn't that we don't have time. It's that we don't use it with awareness. We fill our days with scrolling, comparing, proving, rushing, and we forget how to be. We chase happiness like a finish line, but happiness isn't found at the end of a race. It's found in the rhythm of your own breath, in the silence between thoughts, in the smile of a loved one, in the act of doing something that feels meaningful, even if no one else ever sees it. So ask yourself, what is it that brings you to life, even in small ways? What makes you forget your phone, your worries, the clock? What makes you feel like a child again, playful, curious, free? It might be something creative. It might be something physical. It might be something emotional or spiritual. It might be something you haven't done in years, but it's still inside you waiting to be seen, waiting to be chosen, waiting to become your daily offering. That is your Ikigai. Sometimes when you observe the elders of Okinawa, it feels like time itself has slowed down to match their pace. Not because they are weak, but because they are present. They don't rush to finish their meals. They don't multitask. They don't plan 5 things at once. Instead, they focus fully on the thing they are doing, even if that thing is as small as washing a cup. There is a deep wisdom in that. You see, in our modern world, we've been taught that speed equals success. That faster is better. That more is more. But what we've forgotten is that depth matters more than pace. And the people who live the longest, and the happiest, are often the ones who live the deepest. They don't just eat, they savor. They don't just talk, they listen. They don't just work, they serve. They don't just grow old, they continue to grow within. That is Ikigai. You might be wondering, but how do I find mine? The truth is, you don't find your Ikigai in one perfect moment. You shape it like clay with your hands day by day. It grows through curiosity, through presence, through repetition. You learn it not by reading or planning, but by doing, feeling, and noticing. It often begins with something small, a hobby, a habit, a quiet calling. But when you follow it regularly, it begins to transform you. It brings meaning to your mornings. It makes the days feel full instead of long. It connects your actions to something deeper than just tasks. And in time, that small activity becomes a doorway to something sacred. That's when it becomes your Ikigai. The authors discovered that the elders of Okinawa didn't just live longer because of good genes or clean air. They lived longer because of how they related to life. Their purpose wasn't passive. It was alive and it moved with them. One man still practiced karate every morning, even at the age of 102, not competitively but as a discipline of the soul. Another woman handwove straw hats for children in nearby villages. She said it made her feel like she was giving something to the future. Another elder said, "I like to walk to the sea and talk to the waves. They've listened to me all my life." That's not productivity. That's presence. That's Ikigai. And interestingly, most of these elders had never heard of the word retirement. Why? Because retirement implies an end. But when you're living in alignment with what you love, why would you ever want it to end? Instead of retiring, they simply adjust. They slow down if they need to. They stop doing certain things if their bodies ask them to. But they never stop doing what gives them purpose. They continue, gently, joyfully, and with intention. Now compare that with how many people today spend their lives. They rush to get a job. They work themselves to exhaustion. They wait for weekends. They wait for vacations. They wait for retirement. And when they finally stop working, they don't know who they are anymore. Because their identity was tied only to their role, not to their soul. Ikigai reminds us, you are not your job title. You are not your bank balance. You are not your status. You are the quiet, enduring thread of purpose that runs underneath it all. That's why it's important to nurture that thread before life forces you to slow down. Ask yourself, what would I do if I never had to prove anything? What would I wake up for even if I wasn't paid? What makes my hands move on their own? What brings light to my eyes? What gives rhythm to my breath? Even if the answer feels silly or small, it matters. Because small joys are often the seeds of great meaning. In fact, most of the Okinawan elders didn't describe their Ikigai as something big. They described it like this. I take care of my garden. I cook breakfast for my family. I teach the children how to sing. I play the shamisen. I talk to my cat. I fix old clocks. I sweep the shrine every morning. Nothing grand. Nothing glamorous. But everything full of soul. So many people today are searching for happiness in all the wrong places. We think we need more money, more fame, more followers, more validation. But what we really need is more meaning. And meaning doesn't always come from achieving something. Sometimes it comes from simply being connected, to yourself, to others, to nature, to something larger than you. Ikigai lives in that connection. In Okinawa, people don't live in isolation. They are part of something beautiful called a moai. It's a small group of close friends, often formed in childhood, who stay connected for life. They check on each other. They support each other financially when needed. They gather weekly to talk, to eat, to laugh. They celebrate each other's joys and hold space during their grief. It's not just friendship. It's a circle of belonging. And that too is part of Ikigai. Because we're not meant to live our purpose alone. You see, purpose is not only about what you do. It's also about how you do it, and who you do it with. The elders of Okinawa live long lives not just because they eat well or move their bodies. They live long because they are needed, because they give, because they belong. And that sense of usefulness, of mattering, is what makes life feel worth living even in old age. So, as you listen to this, I invite you to pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, gently, honestly, what gives my life meaning? What activity or place or person makes me feel connected? What is one small thing I could return to today that I've neglected for too long? Ikigai doesn't demand that you change your life overnight. It simply asks you to notice, to honor, to listen, and to begin. It's a strange thing, how far we drift from ourselves without even realizing it. Life begins so simply. As children, we play for hours doing the things we love. We paint without fear of judgment. We sing without caring who's listening. We build, we explore, we ask questions with curiosity instead of self-doubt. But somewhere along the way we begin to measure ourselves. We start choosing what's practical over what's joyful. We silence our natural callings because they don't fit into the world's definition of success. And just like that, we forget our Ikigai. Not because it's gone, but because we stopped looking for it. The truth is, your Ikigai has been with you all along. It's that quiet voice inside that says, I love this. Even if it's not impressive. Even if it's not productive. Even if no one claps. It might be the way you feel when your hands are deep in the soil. Or when you cook without a recipe, just following your senses. Or when you fix something broken and make it whole again. Or when someone's eyes soften because of something you said. It's not about doing what's perfect. It's about doing what feels real. So how do you begin to find it again? Not by overthinking, but by gently paying attention to your energy. What lifts you? What drains you? What makes you forget to check your phone? What makes you feel proud? Not because it's flashy, but because it feels true. Sometimes the things that carry the most meaning don't look successful from the outside, but they feed something sacred within. That's your compass. Héctor and Francesc suggest asking yourself 4 simple questions. Not to pressure yourself, but to explore. 1. What do I love? 2. What am I good at? 3. What does the world need? 4. What can I be paid for? And where these 4 overlap, there may lie your deep Ikigai. But even if you don't know all 4 right now, start with just 1. Start with what you love. Let that guide your curiosity. The mistake many of us make is believing that purpose must come from the outside, from a job title, a big project, a clear label. But purpose often begins from within, from a feeling, a rhythm, a quiet satisfaction that only you can recognize. And over time, when you do more of what aligns with that feeling, your life starts to feel more alive. Not louder, not faster, but richer, more yours. So if you're still searching, know this. You don't have to uproot your whole life. You don't have to know all the answers today. You just have to start listening again. To your joy, to your energy, to your heart. Do one small thing each day that brings you back to yourself. Because that's what the elders of Okinawa do. That's why they live so long. That's why they smile so often. That's why they never stop waking up with a reason. They never lost their Ikigai. And neither have you. Sometimes it's not the big decisions that shape our lives. It's the small ones repeated with care. In Okinawa, you'll rarely hear the word routine. But when you watch how they live, it becomes clear. They have rhythms, not routines. They don't rush. They don't chase. They simply do the same simple things every day, with attention, with joy, and with heart. They wake early. They stretch their bodies gently. They greet the sunlight. They drink warm tea. They tend their gardens. They eat lightly. They gather in small groups. They smile. They rest. Nothing fancy. Nothing forced. But everything is done with presence. That presence is what turns habit into healing. One of the most powerful principles they follow is called hara hachibu. It means, eat until you are 80% full. Not until you can't breathe. Not until the plate is clean. Just until your body says, enough. This one practice alone protects them from many diseases that come from overconsumption. It keeps their digestion calm, their energy stable, and perhaps most importantly, it reminds them to listen to their bodies, not override them. They also move, but not in gyms or with trackers. They move naturally. They walk. They sweep. They plant. They climb steps. They dance at community gatherings. They do what needs to be done, and in doing so they stay strong. There's no pressure to work out. There's just a quiet love for staying active. And what about stillness? They honor that too. You'll often find elders sitting silently outside their homes, watching the clouds pass. They're not bored. They're just being. They don't need constant noise. They don't fear silence. Because they've made peace with themselves. In that stillness, their Ikigai breathes. Alive. Gentle. Enough. Maybe that's what we've been missing. Not better schedules, but deeper rituals. Not more apps, but more moments. Not a new lifestyle, but a lighter one. One where we pay attention. One where we slow down. One where we let meaning grow like a garden, watered daily by small, sacred acts. There's a phrase you hear often in Okinawa. It's said softly with a small bow and a smile. Arigato. Thank you. It's not saved for special occasions. It's said every day, for meals, for greetings, for tiny gestures. For the morning sun. For a cup of tea. For a neighbor's wave. For the wind passing through the trees. Because here, gratitude is not a reaction, it's a practice. It's a lens through which they see the world. And that lens keeps their hearts light. You see, Ikigai is not just about doing what you love. It's about doing it with the right energy. With a spirit of thankfulness, not tension. With presence, not pressure. Gratitude softens life. It turns ordinary days into sacred ones. It reminds you that even in difficulty, something is still good. Even in struggle, something still matters. That mindset doesn't just bring peace, it brings resilience. And resilience is rooted in community. In Okinawa, people aren't alone, not even in old age. They live close to one another. They check in. They help out. They share meals. They sit together. They laugh often. They grieve together. They belong. This web of belonging, called a moai, is one of the most powerful medicines on earth. Because humans were never meant to carry life alone. And Ikigai, while personal, isn't lonely. It grows faster when nurtured with others. Even in silence, this connection is felt. They walk in pairs. They sit in groups. They remember birthdays. They show up. There's no networking, only genuine care. And perhaps that's why so many elders in Okinawa remain emotionally calm. They're not chasing attention. They're not drowning in comparison. They're simply grounded, held by their people, rooted in their rhythm. In our world, stress has become normal. But in theirs, calm is the default. Not because life is perfect, but because they've chosen peace as a way of life. They don't hold grudges. They don't argue for long. They don't feed drama. They let things pass like wind through trees, and they come back again and again to what matters. Companionship, movement, nature, joy, service, simplicity. That emotional stillness? It's not weakness. It's wisdom. It protects their hearts. It extends their lives. And it keeps their Ikigai alive, even in storms. Maybe you've been listening to all this and wondering, what now? How do I bring Ikigai into my life, when my world feels loud, busy, rushed? The answer isn't grand. It's not another system to follow. It's not a step-by-step program. It begins with something far more gentle. Awareness. Noticing. Not fixing. Just noticing. The way you feel when you wake up. The way you breathe when you're with someone you love. The things that make time feel slower, in the best way. The activities that energize you even after a long day. The tiny things that feel like you. Ikigai begins there, in returning to yourself. You don't have to change your entire life. You just have to change the way you see it. Instead of waking up and diving straight into tasks, ask, what's one thing I'm grateful for today? Instead of eating mindlessly, pause, feel the nourishment. Instead of scrolling endlessly, step outside. Look up. Let your senses remind you of the world beyond your screen. Instead of rushing through your to-do list, make time, even 10 minutes, for something that fills your spirit. Water a plant. Write one page. Walk without headphones. Sit in silence with a cup of tea. Call someone who makes your heart softer. These moments, they matter. They stitch your Ikigai into the fabric of your day. And slowly you begin to notice. You're breathing deeper. You're smiling more. You're craving less noise. You're feeling more alive, not in a dramatic Instagram-worthy way, but in a quiet, real way. You're remembering what it feels like to be yourself. You see, Ikigai isn't about escaping life. It's about returning to it. Not the life others expect of you. Not the one you've been pressured to perform. But the life that feels rooted, whole, aligned. It's not a destination. It's a direction. And every small act of meaning, every moment of presence, every breath of gratitude, they all point you there. To your rhythm. To your peace. To your center. So, before we end this journey, here's one final invitation. Don't rush to define your Ikigai. Let it reveal itself, through your attention, through your joy, through what you choose to love, again and again without needing applause. Maybe it's something you've known all along. Maybe it's something you'll find tomorrow. But it's there. It always has been. Waiting quietly. For you to remember. You don't need to change the world. You just need to live your days with purpose. With care. With kindness. With wonder. That's more than enough. That's Ikigai. And you? You're already on your way. Let's talk about the key takeaways from Ikigai. 1. Ikigai means a reason to live. It's the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. Your Ikigai gives your life meaning, energy, and direction. 2. You don't retire from purpose. In Okinawa, people continue doing what they love well into their 90s and 100s. Retirement doesn't mean stopping. It means shifting your rhythm, not your reason. 3. Stay active, always. Movement is natural, joyful, and embedded into daily life. Walking, gardening, cooking, sweeping, all keep the body and mind alive. 4. Harahachibu, eat until you're 80% full. Practicing moderation and mindfulness while eating prevents disease and promotes longevity. 5. Surround yourself with a strong social circle. Belonging to a community called Moai provides emotional support, laughter, and resilience through life's ups and downs. 6. Keep your mind engaged. Lifelong curiosity, hobbies, and learning help maintain mental sharpness and emotional vitality. 7. Live in the present, not in the pressure. Slowing down, savoring small moments, and practicing mindfulness make everyday life more meaningful. 8. Let go of stress and perfection. The calm, unhurried lifestyle in Okinawa shows that peace matters more than productivity. 9. Connect with nature regularly. Spending time outdoors improves mental clarity, emotional health, and spiritual grounding. 10. Gratitude is a daily ritual. Giving thanks for simple things, meals, sunlight, friendship, keeps the heart open and content. 11. Small joys equals big meaning. Your Ikigai might not be grand. It could be a daily habit, a quiet act of service, a tiny spark that makes you feel alive. 12. Ikigai is personal and evolving. It's okay if your purpose changes over time. What matters is staying connected to what feels true to you, moment by moment, day by day. Thank you for listening. If this journey into Ikigai touched even a small part of your heart, take a moment today, just one moment, to sit still, breathe deeply, and ask yourself, what makes me feel truly alive? You don't need to change everything. You just need to begin, gently, honestly, and with love. And if this audiobook gave you peace, clarity, or a spark of purpose, please share it with someone who may need it too. You never know whose life it might quietly change. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe for more soul-nourishing content like this. Until next time, keep breathing, keep noticing, and keep walking toward your Ikigai.